Welcome to the Deep Dive. You're here because you're serious about learning English, and you actually sent over some really interesting material from the English Voice Club about setting learning goals effectively.
That's right. And it's a common theme, isn't it? Learners put in so much work, hours of study, but still feel, well, stuck sometimes.
Exactly. And you mentioned wanting to absorb information quickly, but without feeling, overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, our mission for this deep dive is pretty clear.
Mm-hmm.
Let's unpack how to set goals that actually work using the SMART framework from the source.
Yeah, the idea is to help accelerate that learning curve, get those aha moments happening sooner.
Perfect. So the English Voice Club stuff kicks off by tackling why some really typical English goals just fall flat.
Oh, yeah. You hear them all the time. Things like, I want to be fluent, or my aim is to speak like a native.
Or speak without mistakes.
That's a big one. They sound ambitious, which is good, but are they actually helpful? Maybe not so much.
They do kind of fall apart under scrutiny, don't they? The source makes such a good point about fluent. Like, what does that mean?
Exactly. Ask 10 people.
You get 10 different answers.
Precisely. And if you don't have a clear definition, a clear target, well, how do you aim?
It's like setting off on a journey with no map and no destination in mind. You just wander.
You do. You drive around, feel like you're busy, but you're not actually getting anywhere specific. It's confusing.
And even if you are making progress with a goal that vague, how would you even know? There are no signposts.
Right. No milestones to tick off. And that's where the discouragement creeps in, you know?
Yeah, the is this even working feeling? Am I wasting my time?
And that's often the point where people just throw in the towel, feel like giving up.
Which is a real shame. So this brings us to, okay, how do we set better goals? And that's where SMART comes in.
Yes, the English Voice Club presents SMART as a smarter way to set targets. It gives you structure.
Right. SMART. It's an acronym. SMART stands for.
Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
Okay. Each letter is like a filter for your goal.
Exactly. It forces you to move from just a wish to an actual plan. You have to think it through more carefully.
Let's break that down then, starting with S, specific.
Mm-hmm.
The material says we need to ditch the vague stuff and get concrete. How does that look in practice?
Okay, so I want to speak like a native. That's pretty vague, right?
Okay.
A specific version might be, I want to be able to talk about common, everyday topics without hesitating too much. See the difference?
Yeah, one's this huge ideal. The other is an actual skill you can work on.
Or instead of, I want better grammar.
Which can mean anything.
Right. I want to learn how to use the past, simple, and present perfect tenses correctly. Much clearer focus.
That makes sense. It narrows it down.
And, the source mentions that sometimes getting specific means doing a bit of digging, maybe talking to a teacher or doing some self-study to figure out exactly what needs work.
Ah, okay. So it might take a little effort just to define the goal itself.
Sometimes, yeah. It's about knowing what you're aiming for first.
Okay, specific. Got it. Next is M, measurable. How do we know if we're hitting the target?
Good question. You need some way to track it, to quantify it. So let's take that specific speaking goal. Talk about everyday topics without hesitating too much. How do we measure that?
Okay, maybe. Number of topics.
Yeah.
Or for how long.
Exactly. The source suggests something like, I want to be able to talk about 5 everyday topics like hobbies, family, work, a movie, food for 1 minute each without pausing for, say, more than a few seconds.
Ah, I see. The 5 topics and 1 minute each, those are the measurable bits.
Precisely. It turns a general feeling into something you can actually test yourself on. Can I do it? Yes or no. That's measurement.
Makes sense. Okay, A is next, achievable. This sounds like keeping it real.
It is. It's about finding that sweet spot between pushing yourself and setting yourself up for failure.
Right, like the example, I want to speak perfect English.
Yeah. That's probably not achievable, at least not in the short term. It's too big, too daunting. It can actually kill your motivation.
So the key is breaking down those huge ambitions.
Definitely. That big dream of fluency becomes much less scary if you break it into smaller, achievable steps, like mastering those 5 everyday topics first.
It's like climbing a mountain. You focus on reaching the next base camp, not the summit all at once.
Perfect analogy. Each small win, each achievable goal you hit gives you that boost. Psychologically, it's huge for keeping you going.
Okay, achievable. Then we have R, relevant. How does this fit in?
Relevance is all about the why. Why this goal? Why now? Does it actually matter to you?
Ah, so connecting the English goal to your actual life.
Exactly. The source really pushes you to think.
Yeah.
Why do I want to improve, say, my pronunciation? Is it just some abstract idea of sounding better?
Or is it because, maybe, clear pronunciation will help in work meetings or make chatting with friends easier?
Precisely. Will it help you understand movies better? When you connect it to a real benefit in your life, professional, social, personal, that's powerful motivation.
It gives the effort purpose, makes it feel worthwhile, not just like homework.
You got it. That personal connection keeps you invested when things get tough.
Okay, that leaves teen time bound. Setting deadlines. Why is this important?
Deadlines create urgency. Without one, a goal can just float around forever on the someday maybe list,
The I'll get around to it eventually track.
which often means never. Putting a date on it forces you to prioritize and gives you a clear time frame to work within.
So putting it all together for our example, I want to be able to talk about 5 everyday topics for 1 minute each without hesitating much.
By the end of next month, or whatever time frame is realistic.
That final part, the deadline, makes it concrete, accountable.
Exactly. It's a finish line. And because you've made the goal specific, measurable, achievable, and relevant, you're much more likely to actually cross that finish line.
And feel good about it.
Absolutely. That sense of accomplishment is key.
Okay, so the source material then shows how to use SMART for different skills.
Yeah.
Let's talk speaking first. Common problem. I want to express myself better, but feel like you don't have the words.
Yeah, the vocabulary gap. So how do we make express myself better SMART? First, specific. What kind of expressing?
Right. Where we talk about daily chats or like debating complex ideas.
That's a crucial first distinction. The source emphasizes you need to choose, then make it measurable. The example they used was pretty specific, wasn't it?
Yeah, the Van Gogh one. Talk about Van Gogh's life and paintings in detail for 3 minutes without running out of words. That's definitely specific and measurable.
Very. But then you hit achievable and relevant. Is talking about Van Gogh for 3 minutes realistic for you right now?
Good point. And is it relevant? Maybe you're not that interested in art history.
Exactly. The source flags this too. It's a great example of a SMART goal, but it might not be the right goal for everyone. You have to tailor it.
So self-awareness is key here. Choosing something achievable and relevant to you.
Mm-hmm. And then adding the time frame, of course, by the end of the month or whatever works.
And I like how they mentioned mini goals. Like for the Van Gogh goal, you'd need smaller goals.
Yeah.
Learn art vocabulary, practice describing a painting, read about his life.
Yes. Those smaller supporting goals make the main one feel less daunting. They pave the way. It's about breaking it down.
Okay, what about pronunciation? The goal is often sound more natural. How does SMART help there?
Again, specificity is crucial. Sound more natural is way too vague. What aspect of natural sound?
Like intonation, word stress. Specific sounds like the.
Exactly. The source lists things like intonations, stress patterns, consonants, vowels, even syllable stress. You probably need help identifying your specific issues here, maybe from a teacher or focused listening practice.
So a specific goal might be improve my intonation on questions.
Perfect. Then measurable. How do you measure that?
Well, the source suggested maybe studying specific units in a pronunciation book.
Right, and practicing with audio until it feels easier, or maybe recording yourself and comparing.
Okay, and then achievable and relevant. Does improving question intonation fit your current needs and level?
And finally, time-bound. The source suggested shorter time frames for pronunciation, maybe?
Yeah, like within 2 weeks, I'll study these specific units and practice daily. It encourages focused bursts of effort.
Which can be really effective for pronunciation, tackling one specific feature at a time.
Okay, last skill area, grammar. Goal. Be more accurate, make fewer mistakes.
Same process starts. Get specific. Which grammar point?
Like maybe the difference between present perfect and past simple, or using articles correctly, or that third person's.
Precisely. You need to zoom in. Instead of just fewer mistakes, aim for something like correctly use present perfect versus past simple in my writing.
Okay, how do you measure that?
Writing is a good way. The source example was something like, write a 300-word text about a past trip with fewer than, say, 3 errors in past simple present perfect usage.
And set a deadline for that writing task.
Yep. By Friday, for example. And check if it's achievable for your level and relevant to what you need grammar for.
And again, maybe smaller goals help, like reviewing the rules first, doing some exercises.
Definitely. Reviewing past mistakes, making flashcards for verb forms, whatever supports that main grammar goal. Break it down.
So, looking back at the whole SMART framework, SMART, what's the big takeaway? Why does this work so much better?
Well, fundamentally, clear goals just give you a much, much better chance of actually achieving them. It sounds obvious, but it's true.
You know where you're going.
You have a map.
Yeah.
And achieving those smaller, well-defined goals gives you that crucial sense of progress.
And that progress feeds motivation, right?
Yeah.
Builds confidence.
Absolutely. It's a positive feedback loop. Success breeds more success. You start feeling like, hey, I can do this, which makes you want to keep going. It builds momentum.
Okay, so, listener, you've got the tools now, the SMART framework explained, with examples for speaking, pronunciation, grammar. The English Voice Club finished with a really good question.
Yeah, they asked essentially, okay, now what? What could be your first SMART goal for your English?
It's a great question for reflection. We're not asking you to answer now, but definitely something to think about after this deep dive.
Take some time with it. What's one specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound step you could take?
And just a final thought.
Yeah.
We've talked about SMART goals for English learning, obviously. But think about how these principles, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound, might apply elsewhere in your life.
Anywhere you want to learn something new or make progress, really. It's a pretty universal framework.
Definitely food for thought. Well, thank you so much for taking this deep dive with us today.